Hi guys, this is Max Headspace 9mm. And in light of the recent massacre in Las Vegas, I have some things that I really feel I need to get off my chest. What happened is an absolute sickening tragedy. I can't think of anybody but enemies of the United States that are glad about this in any way. The problem is that there's a lot of people on the left politically who want to lump all gun owners or people who love the Second Amendment or people who love and collect military firearms into the same category as this madman killer. And I don't want to get political right now. It's too soon. I don't ever want to get political about it, to be honest with you, but I know what's coming. I know that it's already started. This country has been an emotional wreck for years. And there's people on the verge of losing it and taking it out on the nearest person that has a different idea than theirs about what this country should be. So let me just say that we've been here before. We've been here too many times, where somebody grabs some kind of a weapon, firearm, and shoots up a bunch of innocent people just minding their own business, having a good time, and a tragedy like this happens. And then after a very short period of time, our politicians start to squabble and argue and fight all the same old arguments over and over again until we're just sick of hearing it. Instead of thinking about the loss of life, the loss of Americans, we're thinking about laws. A little bit too soon. But to be honest with you, I think it's boiling inside of people, just under the surface. They've seen this happen before, and they're sick of the fact that it keeps happening. And so they're really quick to jump to a conclusion about what is the right thing to do. You have people on the left who, let's just pretend this is a big football field. You've got center-left people who, they just want common sense, gun control, a little bit more stringent background checks, things like that, close the loopholes, they keep saying that kind of stuff. All the way to people clear far left. They are looking to completely ban guns, make sure citizens don't have them, give us something like what they have in Australia and England and places like that. Don't doubt me. Some of them really do want to go that far. No matter what they say right now, in their heart, that's where they see this all ending up. And then there's people on the right. People who say we shouldn't be limited by government at all, and who say that anything firearm related should be legal and available. All the way to people who are willing to kind of work on common sense ideas, or what they consider to be middle of the road ideas. But the bottom line is this: no matter what you believe about firearms or the Second Amendment in this country, what happened was a horrible tragedy. Nobody on either side wants to see this ever happen again. We're all sick of it. It doesn't make sense for us to continue to argue and hate each other just because we have a different opinion about firearms. And please understand when I say this, I don't mean to be disrespectful or rude. A lot of people on the left, when it comes to firearms, are really quite ignorant, and the things that they say prove it. They don't understand firearms, they don't have much experience with firearms, and as a result, they say ignorant things. They're just mad. They don't want to have any understanding of firearms. They don't want to have any experience with firearms. They just look at them as bad, evil things, and they're scared. And I have to admit, I was there at one point in my life too, so I understand how fear can take an inanimate object and make it scary. So please, let's just be rational for a moment. A gun is a tool. It can be used for a lot of different things. People like me enjoy having fun. shooting at targets or the dirt or whatever, as long as it's safe. People like me would never, ever turn a gun on another human being unless innocent lives were at stake and being threatened. And that is the vast majority of gun owners in this country. Of the 300 plus million people in this country and the hundreds of millions of firearms, we have one madman every few months, or maybe once or twice a year, take out a bunch of innocent people just minding their own business. And then there's people screaming that all guns should be taken away, that they're just evil, without thinking about how many guns are responsibly managed and cared for by citizens in this country. So I have this to make you think about. Just consider for 1 minute the fact that our founding fathers had a vision for this country. They used terms like shall not be infringed. That is an absolute. You cannot argue shall not be infringed any two ways. It means the government, hands off. You have no right to do anything to usurp people's ability to defend themselves with an arm. Now, a lot of people on the left will say, well, that very same law, that very same amendment says well regulated. And they take that to mean that the government can get involved and create regulations whereby these can be used. But well regulated is not as absolute as shall not be infringed. Well regulated can mean a lot of different things. Yes, it could mean that the government gets involved and creates regulations regarding the use of firearms safely. It also could mean that well regulated is well cared for, well maintained, well considered, and well available. Those all are reasonable arguments as to what well regulated could actually mean. So well regulated is slightly ambiguous, I will admit. And we could talk about that and argue that. That's a gray area that it is up to us as citizens of this country to decide. But shall not be infringed, there's no gray on that. That is an absolute statement, and there's no room for budging anywhere. The question here is, what kind of country do we want to live in? That's the one question that both left and right can agree on. What country do we want America to be? On the left, you have people who say, I don't want to live in a country where this can ever happen again. Well, guess what? Neither do I. But I am not about to trade my freedom for security. And neither are a lot of other people on the right. If we allow the government to protect us, and we depend on them for our protection without taking any of that responsibility ourselves, that might work for a little while. But as history has proven, it ultimately leads to situations like Nazi Germany and Adolf Hitler, Stalin, Mao Zedong, and Kim Jong-un. Within one generation, we could be there if we give up our rights. That's the kind of country we will eventually leave to our children. And I'm not willing to do that. And as horrible as mass murder is, and as much as I hate it, it is a very small thing in comparison to millions of people being murdered under a treacherous dictatorship, as we have seen over and over throughout history. When we allow our government to become too powerful and too responsible for every need we have, we give over our freedom. So let's look down the road a ways. Let's not be emotional and jump to conclusions and jump to any kind of a solution is better than not doing anything. Most of those people who were at that concert that day would agree with me. They were Second Amendment loving Americans who were enjoying their freedom, who would be considered to be right-wing in most circles. And if they could speak right now, they would probably still say they do not want this country to turn into something where our liberties are infringed and our rights are taken away for the sake of a little bit of safety. I don't like the fact that at any moment some madman can pop out of a window in a high rise and start shooting at me. I wish that wasn't so. But that doesn't mean I'm going to hide in my house. And that doesn't mean I'm going to give up my firearms. Just because a madman cannot handle the responsibility of liberty does not mean the rest of the responsible citizens of this country can't. Guns do not turn people into killers. So please consider for a while, without violence, without argument, rationally and gently and firmly, explain to those people who want to fight, who are so angry and fed up they just want to do something, even if it means throwing punches and acting out violently. Explain the bigger picture. Explain the reason why we have a Second Amendment in the first place. Explain that the Second Amendment has allowed this country to be free for over 200 years. Without that Second Amendment in place, all other of our rights and freedoms are in jeopardy. And that's why our founding fathers put it there. So please, let's be rational, level-headed about this. And yes, this is a time for emotions. You can't be a human being and not feel for the hurting who've lost loved ones, for those who are in the hospital right now clinging to life. This is awful. But please, use your head. Don't jump to any solution as long as it's something different. As terrible as this is, we have a responsibility to the millions of people who are coming in the future to hand them a free country, even if it comes with some risk. There has never been a generation in all recorded history on this planet that hasn't lived with risk. We're not going to eliminate that in our lifetime. I, for one, plan on being prepared. I hope you do too. This is Max Headspace 9mm. Have a good one.